Hello everybody and welcome back to the multiplayer project where we're still a little bit bogged down in the map here. But, I mean, it was always expected that this would be one of the more complicated things to work on here. And in this episode, we are going to be adding additional second pass healing and tiles. Now, fair warning, this is live because I didn't want to be adding a bunch of new tiles multiple times. But we're also probably not going to be doing too much in terms of complicated things, and so it should be pretty simple to do it live. So I'm just going to fire up the server. That is the same exact server that we've been working with, it's just on my other monitor. And we're just going to run the game itself here. Hopefully we'll connect to the server nice and quickly. When I fired it up a little bit ago, it took like 3 minutes to connect, and I was like, ugh. But now it seems to be okay. Wonderful. So we'll just go ahead and log ourselves in, and we will enter the world, and let's find some issues. Obviously, this issue exists. Actually, this is not an issue at all, is it? This is this is an issue. So this is where it's expecting an inside and outside corner. You know what? Let's go ahead and fix this issue. So let's fire up Blender. I'm going to go into the meshes over here and open up the basic tile set. And here we have ourselves a tile cliff peninsula here. Okay, that's a bit interesting. Let's find another situation of this happening. And I think this is one here. Yep. So this happens on outside cliff corners, and it also happens on peninsulas. And there's also this issue here, where this needs to be corridor corners. Let's actually work on that one first. And I kind of want to change peninsulas here to be like corridor ends, and I want to add a new type of peninsula as well. Did this not fire up Blender? Apparently not. Okay, so first thing to do, let's go ahead and do that peninsula change that I was talking about. Let's move this over 8 units. And we're just going to duplicate this. Actually, I'm not going to duplicate that. And screencast keys is not on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this and move this over 12 units. Wonderful. And then we're going to make ourselves a basic peninsula shape here. And the way that we're going to do that is our shape is going to be pretty much this. So we'll just extrude that up. And we'll extrude that up to be about 0.8 as we have in the past. And then we'll just loop cut this here, 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 and here to give ourselves the vertices to work with. Wonderful. And then let's go ahead and put in our gray dark. Fantastic. And now we're going to select these vertices, assign gray dark. And this is our basic peninsula shape, but I'm going to get rid of these faces here. And actually, I'm going to get rid of these faces all throughout here. I want to make this shape a little bit more complex. So we're going to extrude this up 0.8. And yep, that should be correct. And then we'll put in a face here. This actually is not at the correct height, is it? Oh, this is 0.58. How did that happen? You know what? I don't know, but we'll just switch over to wireframe here. And we'll grab everything at that height, and we'll just place it at 0.8. I must have typoed it. Okay, we'll go back to material preview. Wonderful. Now, I do want to subdivide this a little bit, but we'll do that in just a moment. We'll extrude this one up also 0.8. And we'll do something kind of like this. Wonderful. This should, of course, be green light. And we'll put the ground tiles, or rather the ground triangles in there. And then we will... I thought I set this to green. There we go. Wonderful. We'll then place these in. And that gets us our rough peninsula shape. Excellent. And we also need our green light right here. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate that. And actually, now that I think about it, it's not this that we need. I'm a complete and total moron. Because what we need is this to be back here. I'm just going to delete these faces for now. Or rather, this edge. And I'm going to delete this vertice. So that vertice gets deleted. There we go. Okay, so then we'll just have that come in like that instead. We'll need to subdivide this. And I'll loop cut right there. So we'll subdivide this twice. Like that. And that should be on the correct Y position. Yes, indeed it is. Fantastic. We'll do the same thing over here. We'll subdivide this twice. Excellent. And that gets us the shape we actually need. So let's also subdivide this edge right here, just to make sure we have a decent flow. Wonderful. And we'll just make the ground on the bottom there, make sure that's all green. Excellent. And right up to the edge, just like that. So the idea here is that these peninsulas happen in situations like... let's see if we can find one here. This, of course, should be a corner, a corridor corner, and we'll make that in a moment. Situations like this one, where it should be right up at the edge and right up at the edge. And then this should be a diagonal tile, realistically, and we'll put in a heel for that as well. So these are going to be renamed from peninsula to corridor caps, or corridor ends, perhaps. But we'll just finish up this mesh here real quick. We'll put in a triangle here, as well as one here, and a quad here. And actually that last one was a quad as well. So just put a quad here, and here, and a triangle there. Okay, so that in theory gets us what we need. I'm going to duplicate that and move that back 4, and duplicate it again and move it back 4 again. Wonderful. And then we're just going to move this around a little bit, just to give it a little bit of character. Something kind of like this, perhaps. Just a tiny amount. Something kind of like that. Okay. Now these diagonals here, these are straight, correct? Let's check here. Yeah, these are straight, and then these are also straight. Okay. So these are connecting to diagonals over here, so they should also be straight. Wonderful. So we'll make this one perhaps bow out a little bit more. Have it come in kind of like this. And have it come kind of like that will probably do. And we'll just have it jut in a little bit over there, just to make it a little bit asymmetrical. Wonderful. And this one, maybe we want this one to be quite small. Just bring it in kind of like this. Excellent. And we'll just have it be something kind of like that. There, just so that we have some difference in them. I feel like this one's maybe a little too pointy. We'll have it maybe shaped a bit more like that. Yeah, that'll do. Excellent. So now we're going to need to duplicate this again, and we're going to bring this over 16, and we're going to do a corridor corner. Now, these corridor corners, we're only going to need one type of corner, I believe, because they're always going to be these 90-degree corners. So that's fine. So we can just simply extrude up 0.8, and then we would loop cut it just like this. Excellent. We'll grab all of these here, and we will go ahead and put in our material slot. And we'll make this actually gray dark. Excellent. So that's our corridor corner base there, and we'll move this up 4, and again 4. Wonderful. And then we'll just alter this a little bit. We're going to need to move all of these in on the y-axis by 0.1. We're going to need to move these as well on the y-axis by 0.1, so that this all fits. And then on the x-axis by 0.1, and then on the x-axis by 0.1. Wonderful. That messes up our nice clean flow a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. So we'll just create some variations here. Something kind of like this. Excellent. And then inside of here as well. I want this to be maybe less of a corner. There we go. And actually I'm going to delete these and duplicate this and move it up 4 and 4 so we don't have to do the moving interior every time. This one, maybe we want this one to be a little bit bigger and come out kind of like this. But maybe also get a little skinny on this side. And then just kind of bow back in like that. And maybe this gets very skinny. And goes kind of like that. That'll do. Excellent. And now for this over here, we will go ahead and do this as well. So maybe this one gets in very skinny like this, but then juts out kind of like this. And then it's pretty sharp, but maybe that's okay for this one. And then just kind of comes back in like that. Excellent. Now we're probably going to need a T-tile for our corridors as well. So let's go ahead and make one of those. We'll move this over another 4, and then duplicate this and move this in another 16. And this will be a T-tile, and we're also going to need probably a plus tile. So we'll move this over and bring this in another 16, and we'll do that one first. So we'll just do exactly the same thing, extrude this up 0.8. Wonderful. Grab all of this, put in a material slot. Gray dark is the one we should probably go for. Excellent. And then this one will be like that. We'll put in a material slot, grab this, and we'll make that be gray dark. Excellent. And we'll need to make some variations for this, of course. But that's fine. And yes, our C tiles are kind of falling behind right now. That is okay. We will address that later on when we actually have some flooding happening. So for right now, we're going to need to bring these tiles right here. And actually, I'm going to multi-edit this. We're going to bring these tiles in on the y-axis, 0.1. We're going to bring these tiles, or rather these vertices, in on the y-axis, negative 0.1. There we go. And then on the x-axis, we need to do the same thing over here. So we'll grab that and do 0.1. And then the same thing over on this side. Grab that, negative 0.1. That was negative 1, negative 0.1. There we go. Just so that we have that nice little shape that we've created for our others. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to need to subdivide this. So we'll subdivide it there, 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 and there. Our center tile doesn't actually matter, so we're not going to subdivide that. Over here, we're going to do here, we're going to do here, we're going to do here, and we're going to do here. This tile doesn't matter to be subdivided, nor does this one, so we will avoid that. Excellent. And I think now we're ready to duplicate these, so we'll do so. And we'll move it up by 4. So that we have 3 variations. Again, it doesn't matter how many variations there are. I'm just going with 3. So we will just go ahead and start making some variations here. And we'll just do something kind of like this. Just moving these, not these edge ones, of course. The edge ones have to remain. We'll just move these here and there. Make some areas a little bigger, some areas a little smaller. It doesn't really matter as long as we just give it some variation. I think that way is the way to go. Okay. I just had a sudden thought that this looks almost a little bit like a swastika, and I kind of don't want that. So we should probably address that by bringing this something kind of like this and making a little bit more extreme of a change here. Because I would definitely prefer not to have that particular connotation. And I'm also going to make this much wider. There, hopefully that looks less like one. Wonderful. Okay. That is definitely not the intent to make swastikas. That's not ideal. And just by saying that as many times as I have, probably would be demonetized if I was monetized. Ha! Take that, monetization gods. Okay, so we'll just make that kind of a bit of a curve there. Then we'll make this one maybe curve pretty heavily inward, kind of like this. I kind of want to bring that up like this as well. Wonderful. And then this one, let's have that one go pretty heavily inside. Maybe not as heavily as it did over here. Okay. And maybe this way goes quite heavily up here. No, I kind of don't like that. Maybe it goes this way. I duplicated that accidentally. Maybe it goes this way. I don't like this interior bit here. Yeah, that'll do. And then over here, we'll try to do the same sort of thing, just giving it a little bit of shape here. Doesn't really matter where these end up, realistically. Something kind of like that. And I mean, once they're in-game, it won't look like a swastika, right? But I would prefer that it didn't. In before this video gets removed for violating the terms of use. Okay. Just maybe something kind of like that. This is a very sharp corner over here. We'll do something kind of like... Yeah, I want these corners a little less sharp. Well, now it just looks like a D-pad. Okay. Let's try to break that up a little bit. By just giving it some irregularity like that. Yeah, that'll probably do. I'm not a huge fan of this corner. If we do that, then we're going to need to move this a little bit, kind of like so. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so let's do that for these tiles now. And I'm just going to have a little bit more leeway here since this is not a, not quite as specific of a shape. Just take that kind of like this. And this one comes inward. And this is just kind of a very gentle slope, perhaps. And then this guy just evens it out like that. And this kind of comes in a little bit further. And then this. Okay, there we go. That's a reasonable shape. And now this one can come out something like that. But maybe it then goes inward a little bit. And then over here, it comes in. I don't like these super sharp corners, but I also don't necessarily like them super smooth like this. I don't know, it's okay to do this now and then, I suppose. I just don't want to do it too commonly, having it super smooth, because that's the easiest thing for me to do. And it's also maybe not the most visually interesting. This is probably a better shape for that. Okay, one more of these. I mean, this is purely cosmetic, but... Technically, actually, it doesn't have to be purely cosmetic because of the way I'm planning on doing the navigation nodes. So, technically, this wouldn't necessarily be purely cosmetic. Now, this one, I want this to be a pretty gentle curve, but I want it to be an outside curve rather than an inside curve. Kind of like that. Yeah, that's a nice variation. That's very different looking. I like it. Okay, we'll go ahead and save that. So that is 3 additional new tiles, and we're going to need to support that. That's, of course, not all of the tiles that we're going to need to put in here. We're going to need several multi-height tiles, which are going to be interesting. And by multi-height tiles, I'm talking about, if we can get Unity to pull up here. Let me see if I can find a location for that. And this is just slightly awkward here with the 4 islands. Well, technically this one's a peninsula, but... Okay, here's an example of a multi-height tile. This is a corner outside that also needs below it a corner inside. So essentially what we would be doing there is we would be taking a corner outside like this. We'll just duplicate those. And let's put that in a new row down over here. This is starting to get kind of large. So I'm going to just move that down by 16. And we're going to simply grab this and extrude this down by -0.8. And delete... No. Delete these faces. There we go. Put in a loop cut here and here. So we have a few vertices to work with. We will go ahead and grab these faces, put in the gray dark, and that is an outside-inside corner. We'll just shape this a little bit. Kind of like this. There we go. So in terms of walkable tiles, you'd have a walkable node here, 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 here. Like every node here would be walkable, but they wouldn't necessarily be connected to each other. So that's one of those hybrid corners that we're going to need. Let's do another one. Extrude this down, -0.8. And we'll delete those faces, put in loop cuts. Wonderful. And same thing over here. Oops, not the edge there. We'll extrude this down, -0.8. Delete these faces, put in the loop cuts. Okay. So let's just go ahead and grab these faces here. And we'll put in our gray color. Fantastic. And we'll just grab this and... I don't know, maybe this one actually juts inward a little bit here. That's going to create a crease over here unless we jump that one backwards. Okay. And then this one can just come kind of like, in theory, that. And the primary variation here, from here to here, of course, comes from this up here. And this will be largely the same. But we're going to need to move these inward, right? Because these are currently just pushed straight down. So we're going to need to grab these 3 vertices here and move it on the x-axis, 0.1, negative 0.1 actually. And then these over here, these 3 vertices, and move it on the y-axis, 0.1. And there we go. There's our outside to inside corners. Now this isn't the only tile that can have this, right? If we go into Unity here, we might be able to find another one other than an outside corner. I know that I saw a peninsula doing this earlier. This is an outside corner here. These are all outside corners. This is an awkward situation where this needs to be a diagonal, and this is a peninsula. This is one of those corner insides that we were supposed to have fixed. This is a diagonal. Oh, it's because this is a corner outside here, when this really needs to be a diagonal to corner. Right. That's something we'll have to tackle. Okay, so let's just go ahead and stop this for right now. And we are just going to make these new tile types. First thing I want to do is I want to change these peninsulas to corridor caps. Like that. And then we'll change the name here from Tile Cliff Peninsula to Tile Cliff Corridor Cap. We'll do the same thing for each of these others. Corridor cap. And finally, corridor cap. Wonderful. If I can stop punching my microphone, we can move on. So we're going to need to also change that in our code here, in specifically our tile set. We're going to want to change this from peninsula tiles to corridor cap tiles. And we're also going to want to add in another public list tile, and this will be Cliff Peninsula tiles equals new list tile. Okay. And didn't mean to minimize that. There we go. We'll hop into our actual tile set object here and see if we retained our corridor caps. We did not. We retained our peninsulas. So we need to get rid of that and put these into corridor caps. So we'll place those right there. Wonderful. And we'll just put in our tile set and we'll unpack that prefab. And we will go to the top view and get rid of anything that we don't need, which currently includes everything over here. In fact, we can get rid of most of this nonsense. That is pretty close to everything that we need to get rid of, except where's our other corners? I didn't save it. Well, we're going to need to get rid of that and recreate it because we unpacked the prefab. Now we'll unpack the prefab, and we'll get rid of everything over here for sure. All of this nonsense is ready to be gotten rid of. I mean, I want to only be deleting things within the basic tile set here, so I'm just going to select these manually from here on out. So these caps can be gotten rid of. These peninsulas need to stay, but these diagonals and diagonal to normals and base tiles, they can all go. Okay, so let's go ahead and create ourselves in the Cliff a new folder, and we're going to call this the corner outside lower inside. Okay, and that's going to be these. So we'll grab these 3 tiles, separate them out, and we will add a component here, tile. We'll also add a mesh collider and an input object. Wonderful. And we will go ahead and rename this to tile cliff corner outside lower inside 01. And we'll copy all of this and simply paste it here. I don't think I copied it. Copy. and paste. There we go. Lower inside O2 and lower inside O3. We'll make all of those into prefabs. Wonderful. We'll delete those and place those into the list. So we'll just come over here, and this would be, we actually need to create that list. So we'll need to go into here and do public list tile, and this will be cliff, corner, outside, lower, inside tiles equals new list tile. Wonderful. We'll let that compile up. And we will, let's see here, cliff corner outside to lower inside. Here it is. We'll get those in there. Fantastic. Next, we will do our peninsulas. So that is these three. Wonderful. We'll add our components. We'll add our input. No, not an input field. We'll add our input object. We'll add our mesh collider. And we'll add our tile object. Wonderful. And then we will go ahead and call this tile, cliff, peninsula, 01. We'll copy that. We'll paste it in there, and then this would be 03, and this one would be 02. And then in our peninsula folder, which we don't have, we'll create our peninsula folder. Peninsula. Wonderful. And these will all be placed inside of there as a prefab. Perfect. And then we will go to our tileset object and put them into the list. So in Peninsula here, there we go. Wonderful. Okay, so now there is all of these corridor objects here. So we're going to need to create new lists for our corridors. And we'll just put this right here. We'll do a public list tile. And this is going to be cliff corridor corner tiles equals new list tile. We'll do a public, wow, I can't type, list tile. This will be a cliff corridor T tile equals new list of type tile. Why did it autofill that with a lowercase t? Oh, it's because I put it with a lowercase t right here. That explains it. So next up we will do a semicolon, and then we will do public list tile. And actually I don't like this t here. Let's just call that cliff corridor T intersection tile. And then we'll call this one cliff corner, or rather cliff corridor, and we'll call this a cross intersection tile equals new list of type tile. Okay, I like that name a little bit better. So we will then need, let's see here, corner. Yep, that's all of our lists. Fantastic. So we're just going to select all of these. We need to do the same steps, so we may as well. We're going to put on a tile object. We're going to put on a mesh collider. We're going to put on an input object. There we go. And then we are, of course, going to need to rename these. So let's just go ahead and rename all of these here to tile, cliff, corridor, and then this will be the corner 01. And then we'll rename this one to 02. And then this one will be 03. And then in the cliffs here, we'll do create a folder, corridor. Wait, we already did corridor corner, didn't we? No, that's corridor cap. Okay. So we'll create a folder here. This will be corridor corner. Wonderful. And we'll make these into prefabs. There we go. And then these are tile, cliff, corridor, and then this is T intersection 01. Wonderful. This one would then be O2. And this one would then be O3. And then we'll create a folder here. Corridor. T intersection. Wonderful. And we'll just make these into prefabs. And get rid of them. And then finally, all we need is this one. So this would be the tile, cliff, corridor, cross, intersection, O1. Then we'll name this one O2. And this one O3. Wonderful. Create a folder, and we'll call this corridor, cross, intersection. Fantastic. And we'll make those into prefabs. And we can get rid of the basic tileset object. We no longer need that for now. I'm sure we'll be needing it again. And in our basic tileset object here, we will go ahead and put those into the lists. So first off, corridor corner. There we go. Corridor T intersection. And corridor cross intersection. Wonderful. So we now have access to those tiles. And of course, our shore tiles are falling behind. We're not supporting those just yet. We will get those caught up once we have our cliffs all up to scratch. So, we now have that going on. So we need to continue to find ourselves locations where they need to spawn. So let's just go ahead and fire up the game here quick. And let's see if we can figure out how these need to spawn. So we'll just connect into the server here, and we will see. Okay, this looks reasonable. The main issue here, of course, is that this is... Oops, I did not mean to move that. This is a corner outside, right here. And this is a corner outside. These are corner insides, and these are diagonal. Or this one is diagonal. And I feel like this shouldn't happen. Like, realistically, this one should be a normal to diagonal, right? So these corner outsides, let's just go to the top view here. Oh, right. We didn't change the materials on these. But you can see, actually, that the new peninsula tile works quite well in that scenario. Over here, you can see it works maybe a little less well. This is a diagonal to normal, and then this one over here is a straight tile. And we need to be realizing that this tile connects diagonally. So realistically, this should be a... How are we supposed to connect this? We might need a new tile for this situation, actually, where we connect in diagonally and then at a straight position here. Yeah, that might be something we need to do. We've got that same situation here, as well as here, as well as here. Now this is a situation where this one... here's a situation where we have a peninsula where it needs an inside corner, and then this one would need to be straight. Or actually, straight to diagonal is what this one would need to be. Yeah. This is a diagonal to normal. And this is a corner outside. It's an interesting situation. But I wanted to find a situation where we need the multi-corner tile that we created. That's what I'm looking for here, so that I can logic out how we need to detect that. Here's the situation. Okay, So let's go into our top view here, and we can see that we are greater than or equal to on this side and this side. We are at the same height over here as well. So this entire half is greater than or equal to. This one is less than, but this one is even more less than. Okay, so that's how we need to detect this then. But I think I'm going to take some time and figure some of these out a little bit off camera. I just wanted to create a few new tiles. We know that we're going to need another new tile. This one should really be a corridor end, and we're going to need to figure out how to detect that probably on the second pass. But we definitely need a second, or rather a third type of peninsula here, which is a transitionary peninsula from diagonal to straight. That is definitely a thing that we need. So actually, let's go ahead and create that before we are quite done here. So I'm just going to move this over 4, and we're going to bring this over 12. Wonderful. And this is going to need to be connected in essentially this shape. So we'll extrude that up 0.8. Going to get rid of these faces here. Those are unnecessary. We're going to put in a triangle here, and we actually don't need these vertices. We're going to instead put in a face right there, although I don't want it connected like that. And then we'll go ahead and subdivide that along these edges, like so. Wonderful. We'll extrude that over here to this Y position, which is 0.5. Wonderful. And then we'll just put in a quad right here, a triangle right here, a triangle right here, and a quad right here. We'll need a loop cut here, as well as one here. Actually, yeah, we'll need a loop cut there, and then we'll have to manually subdivide this. And then we'll have to, I don't want to be in this selection mode. We'll have to get rid of this face, put in a quad and a triangle, and then we subdivide that. Then we're going to need to move in all of these on the x-axis by 0.1. Select this, put in our material slot, and that will be gray dark. Just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to duplicate that, move it 4, and move it 4. Perfect. And we'll just give it a little bit of character here. Something kind of like this. That'll do. We'll have it come in this way a little bit, and then arc its way out like that. Okay, so that is definitely a tile that we're going to be needing. We'll have it come in a little bit differently on this side. Something a little bit more like this. And then it arcs kind of like this, and then comes in this way, where it doesn't really want to be over here, but it has to at the end. Okay, that's a slightly different shape. And then we'll have it come out pretty strongly over this way. And then just like recede in over here a little bit earlier. And then come in kind of like this. Like that. Okay, 3 fundamentally different shapes. We'll save that, and then we will exit this. Yeah, that's fine. And then we will go into our meshes, grab our basic tile set. We're only interested, in fact, we're going to need to unpack this prefab. We're only interested in our 3 new tiles that we created over here. So we will go ahead and pull these out and get rid of the rest. On these 3 new tiles, we will go ahead and put in our, not our input field, but rather our input object and our mesh collider and our tile. And we will name this Tile Cliff Peninsula diagonal to normal. And we'll also put in the O1. Wonderful. This one will be O2, and this one will be O3. So we will go ahead and create a new folder here. Cliff, or actually this will just be peninsula diagonal to normal. And we'll just put in the prefabs. Wonderful, I didn't mean to move the map. There we go. And now we'll put them into the actual tile set. So we'll do public list tile, Cliff Peninsula tile, or in fact, instead of Cliff Peninsula tiles, this will be Cliff Peninsula diagonal to normal tiles equals a new list of type tile. Wonderful. We'll let that compile in, and we will grab our object, and we will put in our prefabs. So this should be Cliff Peninsula diagonal to normal. Excellent. We did almost no coding this episode, but that was kind of the plan, to be fair. So we added the tiles, so let's do our second pass support 4, and let's see here. Our last episode was adding those new tiles, which were the adding corner, outside, lower inside, corridor transitions, and transition / caps, and also the peninsula, which I actually typoed here, peninsula diagonal to normal tiles. Okay, so that's what we did this episode. Next episode, we're going to add second pass support for new tiles. Wonderful. And with that, I'm going to correct this particular typo, and then I'm going to put a cut in here. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and I will see you all next time when we do this and also add materials to new tiles. Wonderful. As I was saying, I will see you all next time.